welcome to another rock and rollin' episode of Breakdowns for Breakfast. I will be your host, guide, enthusiastic member of the podcast tonight, Monster. Joining me is my musical cohort in opinions, Mr. Danger. Say hello, Danger.
Hello, Danger. And this is a strange one because, this is Breakdowns for Breakfast. And so it's morning that we are releasing these. And hopefully people are listening to them in the morning, so it at least makes sense why they're called Breakdowns for Breakfast. But we're recording this one at night. Usually we do them earlier in the day. So
True.
It's a little strange, but musical cohort in opinion. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
I love the thought of people in like a suit and tie driving to their corporate job at 8 o'clock in the morning, listening to us discuss heavy metal and metalcore and breakdowns and et cetera, et cetera.
Oh, there were plenty of times where when I wore a tie to work that I would be, listening to metal or whatever in my car before I got out and went into my corporate hotel general manager job. So anyway,
love it.
Take it away, Monster.
So today we are here to discuss a record by a band called Issues. The album is Beautiful Oblivion, released on October 4th, 2019. I might be showing my cards a little by wearing my Issues Beautiful Oblivion tour shirt.
How are you showing your cards? Because you're just wearing the shirt of the band that we're talking about, which I have several, bands like Pearl Jam shirt. This shirt you actually gave me for Christmas. Love this shirt,
I like it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And when we discuss a Pearl Jam album, I may wear this or my other Pearl Jam shirt. I don't know. We'll see. But I see nothing wrong with wearing the shirt of the band that we're talking about. At least you're not wearing that shirt to go see the band live. Just saying.
No. And in all fairness, I had to decide which one of the 4 issue shirts I wanted to wear for this episode.
So what you're saying is that it was an issue deciding which one you were going to wear.
What I was trying to say was I'm a fan of this band and I'm a fan of this album. So
I'm going to fit them in where I can. I'm going to fit them in where I can.
Good. Please do. It's the joke that just keeps on giving.
Oh yeah. Oh yes. Much like the Jelly of the Month Club.
I'm wearing the shirt. I went to the tour. I've made it clear that I am a fan. Danger, how do you feel about Issues? How do you feel about this record?
So Issues was not a band that I knew about before this record. And I kind of found them or was introduced to them or they were sent to me. I don't remember. The fiance, when she and I met, we were singing a lot of music back and forth. And she actually turned me on to this band. And it was around the same time as so many other bands that they kind of just got lost in the mix of it. Now, I don't have a lot of bad feelings towards this band at all. Now, I think it's really impossible to talk about the band without talking about Mr. Carter, but we're not going to be talking about that so much as this album, because this album is not his Issues. Ha, did it again. But
it is. But it is.
Okay, well, I'm interested to see how you smash that together. But this band kind of got lost in some other ones.
Fair enough.
But they kind of showed up every once in a while on Spotify playlists, and I never found myself skipping the band when they came on, the songs when they came on. And the more I dove into this album, I have very, very mixed feelings about this album, as I feel like this album is a mixed feeling within itself.
So I was turned on to Issues pretty early on. They did a cover of Boyfriend by Justin Bieber, back in maybe 2014, 2013.
Really? That long?
Yeah, it was. Okay. Yeah. So the band formed in 2014 in Atlanta, Georgia. The band went through all kinds of lineup changes, but the main thing that people need to know is that the big draw to Issues was the dual vocal thing they had going on. Mm-hmm. You already mentioned him. Tyler Carter was the clean vocalist, and Michael Bond, I think, B-O-H.
Yes. Yeah, I read it as Bond, so.
Okay. He was the screamer of the
Yeah.
band. And
Which is not uncommon to have
no,
in bands that do that. So
we came as Romans, I prevail. A lot of bands do this.
yeah.
But the thing that separated them, even on their first EP and their first full length album, was Michael Bond was a fairly typical screamer in most regards, but Tyler Carter was not a typical metalcore clean vocalist.
No, it wasn't.
His tone and his delivery was much more in line with Justin Bieber, Justin Timberlake, even a little bit of what's his name, the Maroon 5 guy,
Oh, Adam Levine.
Adam Levine. Like, there's a lot more of that than your typical, clean metal vocalist.
He
And
sounds trained.
he does. And I'll be honest with you, I remember playing this for my brother, whose his favorite bands are Metallica, Iron Maiden. He's very old school. But he loves like Limp Bizkit and Linkin Park and that kind of stuff too. And I remember playing this, one of their older tracks for him. And I remember during the screaming part and the heavy part, he was like, okay, this ain't bad. And as soon as Tyler Carter started singing, he busted out laughing. And he was like, what the hell is this? So right from the get-go, this is a very polarizing band. Now, they went through all these lineup changes, but shortly before they started working on this record, which I can't remember if we said or not, came out October 4th, 2019. Michael Bond was kicked out, let go, quit, something to that effect. The album before this, Headspace, you could already tell the band was starting to go into a little different direction.
Mm-hmm.
They were starting to leave the metalcore stuff behind and getting a little more new metal, a little more jazz and punk, pop influenced.
Yep.
And even Michael Bond started doing some clean vocals on that record. But by the time Beautiful Oblivion started getting worked on, he was let go and Tyler Carter took over sole vocal responsibilities.
Now, I do know that Michael Bond was actually on part of this album. So he was actually let go during the recording of it, so one of the interesting things I thought about this album was that, okay, so what I wrote down was Beautiful Oblivion is about an album moving on from negative experiences, toxic people, and painful memories. And for Issues, that includes family, friends, and apparently their own band.
Yes.
Because Michael Bond is credited on the album. He does have some vocal work on the album. Not a lot, but there's, I think it's track 4 is where we hear really the first, true unclean guttural vocals. And that's Michael Bond. But
nope.
It's not. Okay.
Nope.
From
it's
what I found, it was. So
it's AJ Rabolo.
Okay.
It's the guitar player.
Okay. From what I read, it was. So
track 1 has a little bit of backing vocals from Skylar Accord, their bass player.
Yeah.
He sings like part of the bridge, and then AJ does the harsh vocals on track 4, tapping out, because you can actually, there's definitely a big difference between those guys' voices.
Well, I know that Tapping Out is AJ's song. So,
yeah.
I did a bit of digging in on certain things.
Sure.
But they had Tyler Accord on it as well, who did Turntables, which I can't remember which song it was. I do have a note written about it, but he did Turntables, keyboards, synthesizers, guitar, and samples in 2012 and 2015. From 2012 to 2015, officially in the band, but he was 2015 to present, he's just a session musician. And so with this, I did go back and listen to older stuff, and it was, Headspace, and you definitely I don't hear so much the jazz turn on it as much as I do definitely moving towards that synthy, sort of, comfortable 80s spot. And you hear a lot more of that on this album, which is, fine by all means. So you have somebody who is heavily involved in that process. And so then they are a session musician in the studio while they're recording it. And they're going, okay, wait, we want you to be here on this part, but no, we don't want your opinion on this part. And so
Yeah.
it felt very, once I started to figure that out, it was like, I feel like there was a bit of pushing and pulling. And from everything I saw, Michael Bond was let go of the band in 2018, and this started to be recorded in 2017. And so he was still a part of the band when this album was starting to be worked on. And so I feel like with those two things, Michael Bond and Tyler Record, I felt like there was a bit of angst within certain parts of it, of just, where they were given a chance to have input on certain parts and then just gone from another part, from most of it.
So if you go from Black Diamonds all the way through to Beautiful Oblivion, you will hear the sound shift. Every record has that mix of metal, rap, pop, electronica, dance. Like it's all in every record, but every record still feels very different.
Yeah.
And on Headspace, the record before this, you could definitely tell they were going in a more, I don't want to use the word commercial, but they were definitely embracing the pop and embracing the hooks way more than the heavy stuff.
Yeah.
And
which I definitely felt that on this.
Oh, for sure. And I think they were trying to get Michael Bond to sing more.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like Tyler Carter has an incredible voice.
Oh yeah, definitely.
He's put out some solo records, kind of boy band worship kind of sound, but the dude can sing. And if you like NSYNC and Backstreet Boys and Justin Bieber, you'll like Tyler Carter's voice.
So I wonder if at some point when they were trying to get Michael Bond to sing, he was like, "This is my singing voice."
Exactly. No, I think you were exactly right. I think they basically said, "Hey, Michael, we like you. We don't want to kick you out of the band. This is where we're going. You have to adapt." And he could not adapt, because if you hear him sing on Headspace, it's fine. But when you've got a clean vocalist as mature and talented as Carter,
right?
Why do you need him? Yeah. And if you're going away from the screaming, it doesn't make sense to have two clean vocalists, one who is literally just leaps and bounds better than the other.
Well, he is such a strong vocal presence, and he has an amazing range, and he shows it on a lot of these songs.
Yes.
On a lot of this album, I kind of feel like some of these songs are just almost written for him to run and play within it, which is fine.
And
it works.
And as somebody who has seen them live, and as somebody who has, watched live videos before this and stuff, Tyler Carter had the potential to be a star.
Yeah.
I truly think, like I saw something recently, one of the openers on the Beautiful Oblivion tour was Sleep Token, and we'll get to Sleep Token here pretty soon. I've heard a lot of people say, for as weird as Sleep Token is, because of the vocals, because of the diversity, they have the potential to be mainstream. I always felt that Issues was right on the cusp of mainstream, because this is like Jonas Brothers metal. This is One Direction metal. Like, it is the only thing that separates a lot of the tracks on this record from being on your pop station is the heavy guitars. That's really the main difference. And because Tyler Carter got into some trouble, they kicked him out of the band. Issues is not Issues without Tyler Carter, in my opinion. I don't see an Issues without him.
Yeah.
They might call it Issues and have someone else, or bring Michael Bond back maybe at some point. I don't know. But to me, he was the main thing that kept me coming back.
And I mean, you can evolve it and, change the name of it. Like, for instance, Slaves needed to change their band name. It just wasn't a good band name. But now they're Rain City Drive, and they dropped. The guy's name escapes me now. He was in Emarosa at one point, and I actually went and saw them, and they were fantastic.
Are you talking about Johnny Craig?
Yes, Johnny Craig. Right. Sorry,
Johnny Craig is like Tyler Carter, but worse.
Oh yeah. No. I'm not in support of Johnny Craig at all.
Great, but again, great voice.
Except for his vocal talents. Yes. Yeah. So anyway, you seem like you were trying to kind of pinpoint what to call this and call this album. And what I would call this album is, or what I would call the sound is groove metal 90s R&B.
Yeah. So here's the thing.
I mean, what we're going to smash together names.
Yeah. So on a lot of these episodes, we go track by track, or at least pull out a couple of tracks. Mm-hmm. I don't know how many times I can say it's a mix of rock, pop, R&B, metal, and electronica. Like, right. Just know every song has some combination of that in it.
Right. So
depending on the track, varying degrees of more or less of one of the other, but yes. They're all some kind of mix of those things.
Right. Absolutely. 100%. So I will give you my upfront opinion before we just dive into the album of this album. Okay, so I actually had kind of a hard time with this one because I went into it with like, all right, we're going to listen to this and dive into it. And I did what I've done with every other album that we've done and plenty of ones in the past, put them on in the car, put them on while I'm driving, or put them on in the car, put them on while I'm cooking. And there were certain parts that really hit. There were certain parts that didn't. There were a song or two that it was kind of like, you're still on. Like, this album's still going. Most of this album was amazing and shining. This is not my favorite album, but all the parts of what would make my favorite album are here. But this just isn't my favorite album. This is a great album. But at the same time, I feel like a lot of it is actually fighting with itself. And I feel like they, on several songs, wrote one really good song that just wasn't quite there all the way and wrote another one that was really good, just wasn't quite there all the way, and got creative and figured out how to put them together.
Which is a really interesting thing considering, we're going to start talking about some albums that have 8 or 9 minute long songs. But we'll get there when we get there. As someone who has been a fan of this band from day one, but I've never been it's not that I don't like screaming harsh vocals. I do, but I will take a Tyler Carter style voice over screaming harsh vocals any day. So even from the very beginnings of this band, their first EP, their first album, I was like, I love what they're doing here, but I like it better when Tyler Carter sings, and I would be fine if he was the only vocalist. So for me, as someone who has been following this band from very early on, this doesn't feel disjointed at all. This feels like a natural progression from where they were, from where they wanted to go. And I would imagine that if they ever were to have done another record, it would have been, I don't want to say softer, but it would have been a lot more of this neo pop with a little bit of rock and gent thrown in there. But I think, and we can get into this a little bit more too, I think Tyler Carter wanted to be Lady Gaga, Sam Smith. He wanted to be a star.
If you look at their promo pictures, 100%.
Okay. Promo pictures and music videos. Videos.
I don't think I've watched the music video of theirs, but
okay. So I'll bring up a couple of videos here in a minute. But as far as just kind of getting into the tracks a little bit, the first track on the album is called "Here's to You."
Oh, I follow the darkness. I lost my mind, trying to know my nightmares.
And it starts with a very 2020s pop, kind of slow, eerie kind of pop sound, sort of like the production you would hear on like a song by The Weeknd or something. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden Issues kicks in and you've got that heavy guitar, detuned, little bit of a weird groove, but because of Tyler Carter's clean, precise vocal, it just locks in. I don't know, dude. The first time I heard this song, I got chills. Like I was like, this is what I always wanted Issues to sound like.
So I don't think that this is a shining star on the album,
Oh my God.
but I think that this song does an amazing job of setting up the album you're about to listen to. Because you're right, it does start with that kind of 80s, synth, not like the Madonna synth, more of like the Prince synth. I
Yeah.
heard so much Prince all over this album. Like there was one song, there was one song that, if we hit on it, I'll touch on it, but it's like when I first listened to it, I was like, is this a new Prince song? I don't know. But so it was more Prince than Madonna, and then it goes into that, chuggy new metal, just
The issues of it all.
yeah, exactly. And I enjoyed it. I did. I don't think this was the best track on the album, but I do think it was a good opener, because I think a good opener should do what we've talked before about, it should make an impact, but it should also set you up for what you're about to hear.
Everything, and again, like I said before, if I wanted to describe the sound of every song, I would use the same 8 genre descriptors. They all have it in there.
Right.
So this, like you said, is a really good example of what is to come. So the next song, Drink About It.
I hear it every time your phone vibrates. Driving my car, chasing the hurt. Dead on the look, I'm on the verge.
What I was going to bring up is I do like the song a lot. I think this has a good hook. It's very catchy, but the music video for this is it's like watching Fashion Week from Paris. Like
I can see that.
Yes. Again, if you want to know what dreams and aspirations Tyler Carter had, watch this video.
Yeah.
He thinks he's Lady Gaga in the video. There's like 3 or 4 different wardrobe changes. It's very over the top, fashion forward. And I totally get why metalheads wouldn't like that. Like, you've got this 5'0" gay lead vocalist dressing in outlandish outfits, literally shaking his hips about, ooh, why you do that? Like, I get why this doesn't work for everybody. But for me, again, as soon as I saw it, I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Okay, so there is another short gay metal vocalist that dresses in flamboyant outfits that metalheads have accepted for years. A gentleman by the name of Rob Halford.
That's true.
So I don't know. I think it actually has to do more with like what the band has made and the albums they're making and all. Because Judas Priest is kind of a staple in the old metalhead. So okay, my notes on this album or this song or Drink About It are: this song is what, like, if R&B wanted to be metal, it would be.
Yep. Exactly.
This song is an absolute banger. 100%. I love this song. Super catchy chorus. The instrumentation is brilliant. The electronic beat just lands into the instrumentation, which drops in like a hammer. Okay, so his vocals don't live in it, but it rents an apartment in falsetto. Again, his voice is just fluttering in it, and it's a banger. It is.
And I feel like the biggest thing for a lot of people with this band is his vocals. And there's a certain demographic of heavy metal guys that cannot accept this style of vocal on top of their metal.
Yeah.
And
I get that.
And there's a lot of bands that flirt with it. Even Issues 2 records ago, Tyler Carter was just half of the vocals.
Yeah.
And I think people could deal with it. But once they went full Carter, it changes the whole tone. Again, for me, perfect. That's what I wanted from the get-go. But for other people, I can see this being a bit much. So the next song, Find Forever. Have you ever heard Heaven by Los Lonely Boys?
I have.
This is the heavy metal version.
That's completely fair. This was another one that I said a banger off this album. It's the saxophone of this song is fantastic. The gospel choir.
Gospel choir.
It's almost like this song was just created, like structured and built by musical mechanics. And I mean, it was just every part of this one was great. It's a banger. I like it.
This is another. So this is what I'm talking about when I say that I feel like this had potential to be mainstream. This and a couple more songs a little bit later. There's only one thing that separates this from something you would hear on your pop station, and that is that guitar.
Yep.
That is that over distorted, weird, chuggy guitar. And that's what makes Issues so good. But I feel like between Carter's voice and the dynamics of the songs, they had the potential to creep into the mainstream a little bit more than, say, your Holding Absence or Emerosa or other bands that had the pop vocal but a little more just straightforward music. Like these guys were doing pop music just through like a heavy metal filter.
Okay, so I feel like these guys would have been at home on a tour with Emerosa's third album, not third or fourth album, but not now. You know, now they've kind of gone off the deep end. I don't like them so much now. But the thing about this song, and I thought this was an odd thing with it, because that guitar, you're right, it's a good guitar. You know, it makes your teeth hurt in a good way.
And I said, there's a version of this song that could have been a hit for somebody like Harry Styles or Maroon 5.
I'm sure.
Like there's, you know, it's just the heaviness of it, you know.
So this one, and I have the note further on down, but I always like to say whether or not an album is a headphones album. This song proved to me that this was a headphones album. Like I liked it before, but it was really strange because that guitar that you talk about wasn't as overpowering in headphones as it was just through speakers. And that was a strange change that I wasn't expecting. It's definitely still there, but the choir is bigger in headphones. And a big part of it is because there are certain parts of the choir that are only recorded in one side. And I think there's like a guy in my right ear the whole time. And it was like, I like it. I'm good. We're here for this. So, and then that saxophone, perfect. It was.
Now again, and I don't know if we necessarily have to do every single song, but I did want to bring up the next one too, Tapping Out.
Yep.
Because this was the first single. And when they first released it, I was a little disappointed.
Yes.
Now, in retrospect, I understand why this was the first single, but it's not one of my favorite on the track, on the record.
It's not mine either.
I think the reason that it's not my favorite is it sounds like it could have been on any other Issues album.
Yep.
This, especially with the much more metalcore breakdown at the end with To Be Determined, AJ or Michael Bond screaming over the riff. I don't hate it, but I just feel like it's a step or two back from the first three tracks that we just heard.
So this is not one of my favorites. And this is one of the tracks that I think actually had Michael Bond's influence. And it was actually like written and recorded. Yeah. And it was almost like the rest of the band felt the best about this song, like in their performance of this song. And they were like, you know what? This is one that we should put on the album. But I don't even feel like they feel like it should be on the album. And it was like Michael Bond was out and then AJ came in and screamed. And it's like, okay, I'll back down on the Michael or AJ thing. I'll just give you AJ. It's not worth it.
I think I'm not 100% either, but I'm pretty sure. But I think like they were aware that this album would not satisfy all of their previous fans.
Yep.
So they released a song that had some screaming in it, that did have a metalcore breakdown, to just say, hey, we're still the same band. We're going to be a little different. We're going to add a gospel choir and some saxophone, but we're still that Issues that you love. See, we've got screaming. And so I think it's interesting, especially sandwiched between Fine Forever, which is track 3, and then Without You, track 5, which I think track 5 Without You shares a lot of similarities to track 3, that it's just a big pop song that just has a little heavy guitar in it. and they kind of sandwiched this one in there like, hey, we know a lot of our old fans like this, so here you go. Now, that's not to say there's not some heavy shit coming in a couple of songs, but
I feel like, this seemed like a standard rap outing to me. Like like it was something he could still do. And I think you're right that they probably did kind of give this as an offering of like, hey guys, we're still here and we're still these same guys that you know.
And the video, especially for as, I hate to use the word flamboyant, but for as like over the top as Drink About It, the video for Tapping Out is very, they're in a dingy abandoned house performing the song. Like it's very, again, typical metalcore. Like that's what you expect from a metalcore band.
Right.
I
think metalcore still borrows like video references from like the mid 90s.
It does. They're very grungy. Yeah. So album's still going. Everything's great. Everybody's having a good time. The next song I wanted to talk about though was Downfall.
Okay.
So you're going on this ride, and like I said, every song is a mix of metal, pop, R&B, electronica, whatever. Now you get to Downfall. Downfall is super, super heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't sound that heavy at the beginning. It sounds sort of fits in with the rest of the record. It goes into, and I've heard a couple of different tuning decisions, but it's something like drop C sharp a second time. So for
I have double drop C sharp tuned guitars.
Okay, so for anybody that doesn't know how guitars work, I'm a guitar player and I barely know how guitar works. But essentially,
it's good to know now. Like now it makes sense to me what I've been hearing.
So essentially what they did was they down-tuned the guitar to where the lowest note is a C sharp. On a standard tuned guitar, it's an E. These guys play 7 strings, so the standard tuning is probably a B. They probably drop it to an A, maybe even an A flat, somewhere in that neighborhood. So they go lower to C sharp. And then they go an entire 12 steps down again. He probably played this riff on an 8-string, possibly a 9-string guitar. It's just one little, like during the breakdown, that one little section. But again, in headphones, it just rumbles. It is so.
I felt like my headphones were going to rattle off in my head.
Yes.
So this one was really strange because there was a little thing that if you haven't heard it, you will after I say this, but there's a little hi-hat stop, just like a psh, and then it goes into the heaviness, and then 20 seconds in, complete 180 turn to kind of a cleaner thing, and then it's introduced a drum and bass part, which I learned was actually done by Enter Shikari's Rue Reynolds.
Yes.
Which I thought was neat. And then, I mean, it just ramps up so quick. And it's kind of like, it's great. It really is. But it's like it gave me no time to get there before we were there.
True. Now, that's another thing. And again, I like that. These are tight, short songs.
I'm not against it at all. It was a surprise at kind of how fast. This is one that they definitely have a specific guitars on stage for this song.
Oh, yeah.
And then after the song, they're done.
And we kind of glossed over this, but track 6 is called Rain.
Why the hell is it raining so much? Why are you always clouding my mind? Why the hell is it raining so much? I'm just trying to have a good time.
Track 7 is called Downfall.
I will burn to keep you alive. You are my downfall. You are my downfall.
Yep.
Track 8 is called Second Best.
You say it gets better, but I don't want to hear it, want to learn the hard way. Go pop for somebody else.
And track 9 is called Get It Right.
Coming, I'ma make ya, I'ma make you. Whoa, whoa. Stole my attention like a criminal.
All of these songs, you could almost tell by the titles alone, most of the vocals are very introspective.
Mhm.
They're very much about being a disappointment and being disappointed. Carter is obviously dealing with a lot of issues on this record, and I think this section of the album you really feel it. I mean, the very first line of the very first song is "I might have effed up today,
Yep.
but I'm too effed up to care."
Like we said, it does a good job of setting up the rest.
Exactly. So you know that this is a very personal record. Now,
Yes.
we kind of glossed over this at the beginning. Tyler Carter was kicked out of the band in, I think it was 2021.
I believe so.
Okay.
Hang on, I got it here. Go on.
Due to grooming,
2020. It was the end of 2020.
2020.
Yeah.
Okay. Sexual misconduct, grooming charges. The story goes that he was in correspondence with someone who was underage. I don't know a lot of details. I know that some of the guys in the band took it very much like, hey, full stop, no discussion. You are in the wrong. We will not debate this. You're out.
Right.
And there was no, oh, he's changed. We'll let him, there was none of that. It was, hey, what you did is the worst of the worst. You're gone, period. Goodbye. We're not going to listen to any debate or wait for any more facts. We've heard enough. You're gone.
And if I understood correctly, it actually happened not on tour, but they definitely were not at home. They had gone somewhere to play a show, sort of deal.
From what I understand, it was a text exchange, email exchange. It was him corresponding with a younger man.
I was talking about when he got fired. I was talking about grooming. Yeah. I don't. The nature in which somebody, like their way of going about grooming somebody, it's bad enough already. I don't care how you did it.
Yeah, there's no good way around it. So this is one of those examples. Can you separate the art from the artist? It's one of those things that he did not physically assault this person. There is no statutory whatever. There was no charges brought against him. It was, and of course Tyler released a 3-4 page apology explanation behind the whole thing. And,
as expected. So
that might work for you. It might not be enough for you. Either way, I think as a musician, as just a person who loves and consumes a large quantity of music, if I tried to separate every person or musician that I disagreed with politically, sexually, whatever it was, my music collection would shrink by quite a big amount. So for me, I can listen to this, but the point I'm trying to make is you can hear in the lyrics, he's got some
stuff.
Damn it. He's got some issues.
I was trying to get you around it. I was trying to get around it for you. He's got some stuff going on. Yeah,
he does.
And I'm with you entirely. That was something that I kind of came to the conclusion of years ago of I've got to stop letting the way that somebody is, letting the artist and the artist's personal life interfere. And actually one of the best explanations I've ever heard of this was actually from Aziz Ansari, the stand-up comedian. And he was talking about how at a show, he's like, did you guys see that documentary that came out about R. Kelly? That was disgusting. He's messed up. He peed on little girls and blah, blah. Man, who here is done listening to R. Kelly? And the crowd went crazy. And he was like, did you guys see that documentary about Michael Jackson? He's like, who here is done? Like 2 people clapped. And it's like, and he was like, yeah, some of y'all are sitting there going, I got a wedding coming up. I can't stop listening to him. I mean, there's a certain portion of it that you have to. And I think there's certain people that it's like so disgusting that you can't, and find whatever, but that's on the individual listener. This is a damn good album. This is a damn good album.
Now,
obviously his shit's out there in the open. It's a band called Issues. You got to go in thinking there's going to be something going on.
Maybe we'll address Michael Jackson on another episode, because that's a whole other can of worms. But you're exactly right. So after that segment, of the album.
Back to the album now.
Yeah. So after that section, track 10 and track 11. Track 10 is called Flexin'.
My flexion is a problem. My flexion is a problem. My flexion is a problem, yeah.
And track 11 is called No Problem.
You don't know the words you say, they hold weight. I won't fake it at this stage. Probably wouldn't stop the drifting away. It's just hard to live with the rain on my side. I
Keep It Alive. Both of these are just fun, upbeat pop songs. And what's really funny is Flexin' started off as a joke because the lyrics are all about being broke but spending too much. Yeah. And it was literally from the story I read was they were like, Tyler, you got to write some lyrics. We got to get this record out. We got to work on this record. And he started like bullshitting about some dumb stuff. And they just kind of wrote around it. And this turned into a single. They have a music video for this. And it's pretty funny. They're all in old man makeup at like a retirement home, rocking out. It's kind of cute. It's funny.
I mean, Flexin's a fun and catchy song.
Yeah.
I feel like he was channeling his inner Peaches. And
I hear that. Yeah.
Yeah. And during the chorus, he channeled his inner Prince. Like, it's the chorus that made me think, is this a new Prince song that's been released from his vault? But it's all over that song. And the thing about it is, it's a fun, catchy song. You could tell listening to it that it's not a serious song whatsoever. And I 100% believe what you say. Like, they just are writing stuff around it. And it was like, hey, this one works. Let's put it on the album.
And then the very next song, No Problems. It's the same kind of thing. It's a funky pop song. It's a love song. It gets a little bit back into that Prince, Michael Jackson territory a little bit.
So.
And the lyrics are kind of silly. Again, it's just a fun one. And then all of that comes to a halt with the next track, Your Sake.
To this day, wish I could be somebody else for your sake. Wish I could be somebody else. Wish I could be somebody else.
So before we move on, so No Problem,
okay,
I found actually was the first song written for the album.
Yeah.
The first one.
Now, do you know what this song is about?
No, because I skipped it every damn time that I caught it was on. It was one of those that I remembered. It's like, oh, wait, you're still here.
So this is one of those songs that, as I mentioned earlier, Tyler Carter has released some solo material. He has a really good solo album. I think it's called Moonshine or something like that. It's really good. He also is the vocalist for a quote unquote band called Emerald Royce. It's not really a band, but that's sort of a Tyler Carter solo record. This would slot well on either one of those. This is just a piano ballad. It's just Tyler singing along with it. It's one of those songs that when I'm typically listening to this record, I tend to skip as well, simply because it's so emotionally overpowering that 12 songs into this funky neo soul pop record, you don't want it. It's, I get why it's there. I get why I could imagine the guys being like, Tyler, this doesn't really fit, and him being like, I need to get this off my chest. But basically what it is it's him singing to a girlfriend and trying to say, look, I love you. You're amazing. I don't like women. I can't be with you. It's a lie to myself and to you. And I get it. Like it definitely is. He's bearing his soul, and I understand that it's a powerful song, but I'm kind of with you. Like, I'm having so much fun on this record. Mm-hmm. Granted, the lyrics hit some heavy topics. You can tell Carter's fighting with some stuff in this album, but we just came off of Flexin' and No Problems. Like, you're having a good time now. And this is a rough thing. Me personally, they did this on a previous album too, where they kind of had a couple of heavy hitters and then had like a piano ballad kind of near the end. To me, this is hidden track. This is bonus material. If Tyler Carter hadn't released a couple of solo records, It would have made more sense. But this should have been on one of those, in my opinion. As a huge Issues fan, I would have left this off the record.
So one of the notes I wrote down is this song is an issue. And it really it is, and you're right. You're having a lot of fun. The momentum is moving. You're grooving. You're just into it, because I feel like after that, like the first two songs, the album just moves and it doesn't slow down. Like it moves. And those first two songs are not bad songs. I mean, there's some songs, as we talked about, that don't quite hit on it, but at least for me personally, but every song has an upbeat movement to it. Like you're enjoying yourself. Your Sake, 100% agree. It should have been hidden track, like, after the like 5 minutes of silence that we've talked about at the last one,
right?
Or just left off altogether, and them go, hey, you know what, Tyler, we'll give you this song as one you could play live, to where when we need a break and the crowd needs a break, you could do this one and it'll bring things down a little bit, and then we'll pick it up into the next song and everything will be fine. But it should not have been on this album, period.
And maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just coming out of that song. But then Beautiful Oblivion.
Beautiful Oblivion. I can feel you now. I'm in love with forever.
Sort of doesn't really connect with me either. And I almost feel like if Your Sake is not there, and we just go from Flexin' No Problems and then into Beautiful Oblivion, that sounds like the slow down, more like that sounds like the final track of a Linkin Park record. To me, it makes sense as the last track, but Your Sake just kind of throws this weird left hook into everything. I really feel like Beautiful Oblivion is fine. It fits, but because Your Sake is before it, it feels weird. Like it has this whole other vibe that I don't think they intended for. It would have played better in my ears had Your Sake not been there.
So Your Sake really does break the momentum, and I think you're right. It would have been okay. It would have been fine at best if Your Sake, can't get my words right now, if Your Sake had not been there. But I feel like if you are giving me a title track of an album, it should be better. And the thing about this song is, and this is another one, if 90s R&B could be rock, it would be this. And this is a decent closer to the album, but this is definitely not a wow track to me. This does not make me go, oh, we got to listen to this again. No, I'm jumping back to Flexin' or something else early in the album. And the thing about this song is the first verse, like the intro, first verse and chorus, they're very passable to me. They're forgettable to me. It's like second verse till the end when he starts repeating Cloud 9 when the distorted vocal, I don't think it's needed. Like it just ends on this like weird note for the album, and it just stops. Suddenly just stops.
It's one of those cases where I feel like they had a pretty cool song and they didn't want to leave it off the record, but they didn't know what to do with it.
That's
so they
a
were
fair assessment.
And they were like, well, it's the title track. We might as well, like, it feels like to me, I would imagine they had the title of the album before they wrote this song. Like,
I believe
I don't think they wrote this song and went, we have to name the album after this. Like that doesn't, I don't feel that. I think it's fine. I think that it is definitely colored by the fact that Your Sake comes before it, which gives it more of a dour feel than I think they intended. Because when it first starts, I hear that Justin Bieber, "What Do You Mean" kind of production at the front of it. And then it kicks into more Issues style with the guitar and everything. But yeah, like it doesn't have the same impact that the first 11, 12 songs do.
Right. And the thing about it is, I think 11 and up is a good album count. When you've got this many tracks for an album already, and you can leave one off like Your Sake, do it. Just do it. Let the momentum kind of slow down with Beautiful Oblivion, and let it come to a close, not on the drop that it does. That was something that just was very off-putting to me about that song.
Yeah, and as much as I like hearing Tyler Carter just belt it out and full of emotion and all that, I don't know. Like, part of me is like, okay, a lot of albums put this big, soft ballad in the middle as kind of just a transition into the second half of the record.
It's not
But
even in the
I don't.
middle, though. It's like awkwardly at the
Well,
end.
well, that's what I'm saying. Like, so would it play better if you bumped it up to track 6, 7, 8, something like that? But I don't think so. Like,
No. No.
there's, yeah, I mean, even the songs that get a little bit heavier lyrically, like content wise, they're still about drinking and partying and sex. And this is a very pop focused record.
Mhm.
That song, Your Sake, is just a soul bleeding, just absolute heartbreaker.
Absolutely.
And I think it's a great performance, but I just don't know how it fits on this album.
I feel like that was where Carter wanted to show off that he could sing the way he does, which should be left live.
Which should be left on his solo records, which he has
Yeah.
a few of. So, like, I don't know, because by the time this record came out, I think he had already put out a solo record. So I can't imagine that he was like, hey guys, I have to get this out. You are the only conduit that I have. Like, no, you have this other, source of, getting these things out of your body. So
Yeah.
I will say that this album is almost like perfection until the last couple songs. And then I
Yep.
start to kind of lose it.
All right.
So
Do you have
speaking-
your
That's what I was getting ready to say.
Yeah.
Speaking of which,
Yeah.
do you want
Do you
to end this out? Do you want me
right.
to go, or do you want to go?
We'll both go. We'll both go.
Okay, we'll start reading at the same time.
All right. And we'll read on top of each other the entire All right. For all of its big wins, Beautiful Oblivion does have the odd low point. I don't think anyone is thinking after listening, my two favorite songs are Get It Right and No Problem. Other than being two of the three songs that I found myself forgetting they were even still there, they are definitely the weakest points, but are still genuinely good songs. But they are forgettable tracks of the album, which speaks volumes. The fact that the most forgettable songs in the album to me are still genuinely good songs. The third song is not third song. I did put third song, but I don't mean it. The second to last song is an unneeded piano ballad that I skipped almost every time, if not just for the sake of pace, as we mentioned. While imperfect isn't for lack of trying, Beautiful Oblivion sees issues pushing their R&B poppy moods into funk rock with licks of metalcore. And that's the thing about it. It was just little bits of metalcore to me. And I still think it's strange they're actually categorized as a metalcore band. And there's not a lot of metalcore on them.
I've seen them categorized, like when you go to Wikipedia, you can like see the genre tags. And I've seen the first genre tag be metalcore. I've seen the first genre tag be new metal. And I like both of those things. And I don't know what you call issues. It's its own genre.
Yeah, that's fair. So, Beautiful Oblivion has got hooks for days, brilliant guitar and bass tones, and Tyler Carter vocally lives over all these well-produced instrumentals. Passive listeners who only want the breakdown, chug issues may be pissed off by this new album, but those who choose to listen will find enjoyable, catchy pop metal album. This song was an almost perfect moment that is now gone forever. That's it. I'm done.
What's your 1 to 10?
Oh, sorry. Sorry. 8.7. I give this album an 8.7. This is a good album, but it's not a perfect album.
That's very high. And that makes me feel very good, because I was a little bit worried because, well, I'll just go ahead and kind of read my thing here.
So actually, in giving this an 8.7, I was like, there's very few albums that are going to break into 9s.
Yes. So, and so that's something that we'll address as the show goes on. It's hard to give anything too high of a ranking because new music by bands we love come out all the time. And you never know. This could be like one of your favorite records, but then something comes along and it just smashes your preconceived notions of what great music can be.
Well, see,
And
that's why I think it's important to examine each album individually and not compare it to other things. Even though I have talked about where I've listened to older stuff and all, I think Caroline Spine, it was like their album before the one we listened to was the one where I was like, this is actually good. I like this. But it's like, can't compare it to their stuff. It's just you have to take the album for itself. So.
And in a case like this, a band that had been around, for several years before this record came out, I think it's interesting to note, like, okay, this is how they started and they got to this point. Not that you have to dissect every previous record, but
right.
Just to familiarize yourself with, oh, they really did mature or change or whatever.
Okay. Which I do want to go back and listen to the earlier stuff now. I tried not to during this.
Well, here's the thing. I've loved Issues from the get-go, and this will be part of my kind of wrap up here. Issues has been one of my favorite bands since I heard their Boyfriend cover years and years ago. I love pop music. I love metal. And any band that can combine the two as seamlessly as Issues does totally works for me. I prefer them without Michael Bond. I think Michael Bond is fine, but he rooted them in a very standard metalcore sound. Once they let Tyler Carter have the reins, they fully embraced the pop and neo soul and R&B, and they became their own thing. I understand if not everybody loves it, but like I said before, it's almost its own genre.
Yep.
You've got Sleep
Agreed.
Token. You've got some other bands that mix pop and piano ballads with metal, but there's nothing that sounds like Issues. Beautiful Oblivion is probably the most mature and least metal album Issues ever did. But it's still loaded with heavy riffs and weird time signatures and stuff. I feel like the full-blown pop vocals had potential to break into the mainstream, but they weren't going to let go of the metal riffs and tonality that kind of got them where they were. I think Tyler Carter had aspirations of being a pop star. He might have been able to reach those dreams had he not fallen into some issues. But for what it is, what's on this record, I think is just about flawless. I think between the guitar riffs, the slap funk bass, the Prince, Michael Jackson, Justin Bieber vocal delivery, mixed with the like modern pop production is something all of its own. And even if you don't love what we're saying here, it's something interesting to at least listen through one time, just to consume it and be like, what are these guys doing? Somehow this album manages to be brutally heavy and obnoxiously catchy all at the same time.
100%.
1 to 10, give it about a 9.5.
Really?
This is
that's high.
If I were to do, I was thinking about this earlier. I've done a top 10 favorite albums of all time. And when I came up with that list, it was probably in like 2012, 2015. It was before this album was created. I think if I were to go back and do a top 10 now, this would very likely be in there. Or at the very least, if I did like a top 25, that kind of thing, yeah. I would have to, it would, put it this way, definitely in my top 25, contender for my top 10. Other than the last two tracks, I adore every song on this record. It's just the last couple tracks, they're not bad. They would be bangers on lesser albums. It's just so many great songs precede them that they fall flat. So yeah, this is right up there, man. This is easily one of my favorite records. It breaks my heart that we'll probably never get another Issues record. I have kept
not another Issues record with Tyler Carter.
Yeah, and I have kept up with Tyler Carter. I know that he's doing some stuff with what are they called? I don't know. It's a Japanese rock band. He's like the vocal coach or something.
Baby
Uh,
metal.
no, it's not them. He works with Teddy Swims a lot. He's put out some solo stuff. Like I know he's still active, but there's something about the combination of the musicianship here with his vocals. It's kind of lightning in a bottle. I don't know if it'll ever be captured again. This is damn near perfect for what I like to listen to. So yeah, this is a big one for me.
And it occurred to me as you were closing up, the songs on this album that are good are so good they almost make the pitfalls forgivable and
Exactly.
forgettable. And it's the falls that actually drop this for me because the songs that are good are so damn good. So with that being said, this has been our conversation about Issues Beautiful Oblivion. If you have not listened to this album, you owe it to yourself to go listen to it.
Please do.
I don't give a damn what kind of music you like. If you like this, if you listen to this show, then I assume that you like the same type of music that we listen to.
If there is a genre of music that you enjoy, there's probably at least a hint of that thrown into this album somewhere.
Absolutely. So
with that being said, what are we discussing next time?
Next week we are. You did mention longer songs. Next week, we are going to be talking Coheed and Cambria's In Keeping Secrets of Silent Earth 3.
The fact that you can't even say the name with a straight face, I think it's a good segue.
No, it's because I know what it's doing to you.
Hey, I will leave all of that for next time.
Yeah. So, good morning. Have a good day at work. Thank you for listening. Bye.
Later.